What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. It's week 1 Monday. We have an exciting Chicago Bears Minnesota Vikings game going on tonight. We're going to hop into a screen share, and I'm going to share with you guys some things that I have prepared. This is going to be a show. I'm doing it for free for week 1 to show you guys what you guys can get access to, but we're going to be going over my post-game notes and just kind of talking about how things went this weekend. If you guys are interested in getting access to this and a ton of other content throughout the week, check out thefantasyfellowship.com. That's where you guys can become a member there. And then you're going to get access to my weekly rankings, my start sit charts, the waiver wire, which I can kind of go over a little bit. We'll go over that tomorrow night. I think tomorrow night I have to go live at 6 p.m. Central Time, so a little bit earlier than normal. I'm going to be working on my rest of season rankings later this week. And then here is the post-game notes. So you get a lot of stuff into the Fellowship season-long package. So what we're going to do here is we're just going to basically just look at what happened in the games the last few weeks or the last few days, and starting off with the Dallas Cowboys, man. I wasn't really surprised by a lot of things. They could not really run the ball. Javonte did lead the team in carries. He also just dominated everything. The snaps, the routes, the rushing attempts are there. 2 rushing touchdowns were also there. So Javonte was the big winner. CeeDee Lamb, yeah, we expected CeeDee Lamb. I know he had the drops, but he still dominated everything. And then George Pickens, this is what we expected. We expected him to be out there for all the snaps and routes. Just the targets weren't quite there. So I'm expecting him to bounce back. It does look like Jake Ferguson's going to be a guy that's going to get a lot of targets. So I didn't really learn a lot about the Dallas Cowboys. It was weird seeing Jaden Blue healthy scratch. Maybe he's out there week 2. So he's a guy that I'll probably put on my waiver wire column. I don't think Miles Sanders is someone that we're going to care about. But big win for Javonte. And yeah, the Cowboys are just going to have to throw the ball a ton this season. I didn't really learn anything about the Eagles. Everything kind of just works the same. They're going to mix in Dillon and Shipley as the running back 2s. A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, they did all their normal stuff. They got the snaps and the routes. Just it wasn't a big target night for these 2 guys. So Goddard was looking pretty good, though. 7 targets. I think that's a win. He might be in the tight end 1 discussion for week 2. But overall, nothing really to learn from this game. Jalen Hurts still a boss. Saquon Barkley still a boss. A little bit nervous, though, about these ups and downs that we're going to get from Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown. I'm assuming it's going to swing back to those guys in week 2 here. Tough matchup against the Kansas City Chiefs, which we have here from the Friday night Brazil game. This was a big bummer, man. Xavier Worthy goes down. I'm hearing that he's going to be okay. He's not going to do surgery, it sounds like. So I'm assuming a game or 2 missed at best. Maybe it's ending up in the 3 or 4 game missed. But we do have Rashee Rice back week 6. Week 7. That's starting to look pretty good. But this was ugly. This offense did not look good. It was all Patrick Mahomes doing some crazy stuff. And then, Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster getting targets, Travis Kelce not really able to create separation. This was a dink and dunk offense, but Mahomes is just able to do miraculous stuff and make things happen that shouldn't happen. But if Xavier Worthy's not going to be out there, Marquise Hollywood Brown's going to be the guy to pick up on the waivers. You can look at Juju. That's going to be the clear top 2 guys. But Tyquan Thornton, man, keep an eye on him. He's their kind of long speed guy. I'm assuming Worthy's out for this week 2. So to me, it's Brown, Juju, Thornton. I think all 3 of those guys are interesting pickups, but Brown's the one. I am pretty concerned, man, about Travis Kelce, though. A game where he runs 38 routes out of 47 and only earns 4 targets. One of those routes, he just completely destroys Xavier Worthy because he got pushed off his line. And then the 1 touchdown big play was kind of like a broken coverage where he just kind of slipped along and was able to get wide open. So I'm frustrated with this offense. I didn't think it was a good TV performance for them. Mahomes just kind of did things that were supernatural and kept them in the game. And the running game was non-existent. They gave 5 carries to Pacheco, 5 to Kareem Hunt. They each had 2 receptions, just kind of a nothing out of the running game here. Brashard Smith's a guy to file away, though, in case we see him get more opportunities. It's basically, you can still start Mahomes. I think he's going to be able to do enough with his legs to be interesting, but I'm pumping the brakes on Pacheco. Start Hollywood Brown in full PPR. You can maybe think about Juju as a flex. And then, if you have Kelce, you're going to play him. But I'm pretty worried about this offense until we at least get Worthy and or Rashee Rice back on the field. Now, the Chargers are a team that we should be very excited about. Omarion Hampton comes out and he plays basically everything. He played 52 out of 65 snaps, dominated the routes, dominated the touches, 15 carries to Najee's 1. And then the 2 targets there was nice as well. Just an 8-point floor. If this was the game floor for Hampton, I'm fine with 8 to 10 points. He got the volume. We didn't get to see anything happen with the red zone. So for me, I think this is a fine outcome for his debut. Touchdowns are going to come. This usage, the routes, the targets, the rushing attempts, all this looks really, really good for him long term. So the Chargers were aggressive in this game. Justin Herbert's a top 10 fantasy QB right now. For week 2, he might even be a top 5 QB. Just the way he was running the ball, it looked really, really good. And I was just surprised for them to come out firing the way they did. So I loved everything about this offense. I think Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnson, and Keenan Allen, like these guys are starting fantasy wide receivers. The tight ends are kind of going to eat into each other's workload here. Dissly and Conklin. We're never going to feel comfortable starting one of those guys. So let's just ignore tight end from the Chargers. But Keenan Allen, I mean, for him to be out there for 32 routes, the other guys were in there for 36 and 38. He gets targeted when he's on the field. So he's a huge target guy, catches the touchdown, leads the team in receptions. I think Keenan Allen, if he's out there on your waiver wires, he should be picked up. But I think most leagues, Keenan Allen's gone. Quentin Johnston's probably the one guy that you're going to be looking at on the waiver wire this week. And if you're in a 1 QB league and Herbert wasn't drafted or whatever, you should probably pick him up if you need some quarterback up. I think he's an interesting guy. Good evening to Dividual. Is Tyreek plus Travis Etienne for AJ Brown a good trade? I mean, I'm kind of excited to see what happens with Tyreek Hill because he's potentially going to get traded as well. And I think right now, Travis Etienne, man, he dominated. We'll talk about the Jags in a second here, but he dominated the touches and opportunities week 1. I think I'm going to hold on to Tyreek Hill and Tyreek Hill here. I like AJ Brown, but again, he's going to even out eventually, but I think holding on to Etienne because he looks like the clear winner in the Jags backfield, and that he's going to be a guy that they're going to want to throw the ball to and let them lead the team in carries. So I'm probably going to hold on one more week here. If you wanted to do it, I'm fine though. AJ Brown is the best player among the group here, but I think I'm going to hold on to Tyreek and Etienne because there's a good chance Tyreek gets moved. But let's go to, again, I love the Chargers. Everything looked really good for Justin Herbert in the passing offense. And I thought Hampton, at this point, Najee Harris is just purely a handcuff. He's not really involved in the offense. He was just out there for breather snaps. But the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, this looked like a pretty good day on paper for fantasy. I mean, Emeka Egbuka catches 2 touchdowns. That's exactly what we wanted to see. He leads the team in snaps and routes. Mike Evans leads the team in targets. He didn't have a huge fantasy day, but you get your 10-point floor with Mike Evans. Sterling Shepard's operating as the number 3 receiver while Chris Godwin is away. So we'll see how this looks when Godwin returns. I think Egbuka still at this point, I mean, he's going to have a few more games to really show what he can do. And maybe Godwin's kind of getting these Shepard 27 routes. So for now, Egbuka and Evans are starting fantasy receivers. Cade Otton shouldn't be owned in a tight end spot for you. So, for him to run 32 routes, only 2 targets, no receptions, you're just never going to have faith starting him. Good news for Bucky Irving. Just dominated the touches, 14 carries, 2 for Rachaad White, 1 for Tucker, dominated the targets here, ran the most routes. This is Bucky Irving's backfield. I don't think Rachaad White, even if Bucky Irving were to miss time, I don't think Rachaad White's going to be getting the workload to himself. He's going to probably split it with Sean Tucker. So huge win for Bucky Irving. That kind of confirmed everything that we were talking about this summer. And then Baker Mayfield, not his best game, but he gets there on touches, on touchdowns. He did not throw the ball very efficiently, but he was able to run the ball and find his way to the end zone and get his 22 fantasy points. So Buccaneers kind of grind their way to a win, and I think better days are coming for Tampa Bay. So it looks like a healthy offense. I mean, Herbert in another primetime matchup on Monday night against the Raiders. I can't quite remember who Tampa Bay plays week 2. Who does Tampa Bay play week 2? I usually don't like to answer start-sit questions on a Monday night. We got to let the week unfold here. We got to see what's going on with some of the guys. But off the top of my head right now, like I'm thinking Herbert might be my choice. Let me just look up and see the game lines here. And Tampa Bay at Houston, I think that's the other Monday Night Football game. I mean, I'm probably going to go with Herbert in this one. They are 3-point favorites. They're projected to score a few more points. I like Herbert's upside right now with those receivers. I'm going to lean Herbert, but it's very close. It's kind of a gut feeling call. But the Atlanta Falcons, man, we saw Michael Penix run the ball, which was nice. He had 6 rushing attempts, got the rushing touchdown for 24 fantasy points. Bijan continues to be a really good receiving back. The carries were split a little weirdly, though. Bijan gets 12. Tyler Algier gets 10. So we're still dealing with Tyler Algier. Maybe it's just because it's early in the year and they want to make sure Bijan, maintains his workload throughout the year. I'm fine with that, but he's getting all the high leverage stuff and he's dominating. I mean, he's dominating the snaps and routes. So we're not worried about Bijan's workload at all. No Darnell Mooney in this one. So we see Casey Washington run a ton of snaps, routes, get a handful of targets. Not really a guy I'm going to care about for picking up on the waiver wire, though. We should see Mooney back week 2, if not week 3. Drake London led the team in targets and receptions. He looked really, really good. He did hurt his shoulder later in the game, and they're saying he's day-to-day, but we have to monitor his practice reports this week. I think they play Sunday Night Football, so we should get reports out on Wednesday with what's going on with London. He might miss a practice day or 2 this week, but it sounds like he avoided anything serious. He didn't have the big yardage day, but the targets are what we like to see here. So stick with London. Ray McCloud did run as the number 3 receiver here. He's going to maintain this role even when Darnell Mooney's back. So if you play in a deeper PPR league, consider Ray McCloud along those Wan'Dale Robinson types, where if you need someone in a pinch to get you 8 to 10 points, it could be a Ray McCloud day. But then the big winner here, well, Kyle Pitts, man, 8 targets, 7 receptions. He dominated the snaps and the routes. They had used him more as he wasn't like a true all-around tight end last season for this team. They were using a lot of Charlie Warner in blocking situations, but he runs all the routes. He gets a handful of snaps here, 59 out of 76, and he was heavily targeted on a lot of his plays. And Penix missed him for a wide open touchdown. He decided to run it there at the end, but Penix starting to take off running, and Kyle Pitts kind of boxed out his guy, and he was wide open for the 5-yard throw. He just kind of had to flick it there, but Penix runs it in. Kyle Pitts could have had a huge day. I think he's back into the top 10, top 12 tight end discussions for week 2. So I'm probably going to be starting him this week. I think I'm going to rank him as a top 12 tight end. Overall, Atlanta could have easily won this game. Kicking woes at the end. Penix looked good, though. I'm excited about this offense, especially when Darnell Mooney comes back. Frustrating day for the Cincinnati Bengals. This is a team that kind of always starts slow. So it's more so just looking at the routes and the box score stuff here. Chase Brown, 21 carries. No other player got a carry other than Joe Burrow. Samaje Perine, the only other running back to get on the field, and that was just in passing situations. And even then, it's not enough to really steal a ton of work from Chase Brown, who still had 2 catches and 3 targets. So Chase Brown, we're happy with. He's going to be out there for the majority of the snaps, run most of the running back routes, and pretty much get every running back touch in this backfield. So good for Chase Brown. And then, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, top 2 receivers, lead the team in targets, but it just didn't really connect this weekend. So bigger days ahead for both those guys. You're not benching these guys. It is interesting to note that Andre Yoshivas continues to operate as the number 3 receiver. They only let 4 receivers run a route, and it was primarily Chase, Higgins, and Yoshivas. No targets on those 20 routes, but we know that if anything happens to Higgins or Chase, we'll be looking at Yoshivas as the next man up. The frustrating thing is they like to use so many damn tight ends, and they all kind of run the same amount of routes. Samples the blocking tight end, so he's out there for more snaps. Fant gets 5 targets and a touchdown. Gesicki, 3 targets. I'm kind of just saying hands off on the Bengals tight ends this season. It's Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Chase Brown, Joe Burrow, and that's pretty much all I'm going to care about for fantasy until something changes. The Browns, man, this was an interesting team. We were pretty excited to see what this offense would look like with Joe Flacco. They run a ton of snaps. They throw the ball a ton. They had 48 routes available here. Cedric Tillman and Jerry Jeudy both run 46. I think both guys are startable as wide receiver 3 flexes. They both had 5 catches on 8 targets. Tillman catches the touchdown. That's why he scores more fantasy points. And then they kind of mixed in Isaiah Bond and Jamari Thrash as the 3rd slot receiver. None of those guys are going to intrigue me because they're just not going to be on the field as much as the other tight ends, man. David Njoku runs 41 of the 48 routes, and then Harold Fannin Jr., he's going to be probably the number 1 waiver wire target if you need a tight end this week. He runs 32 routes, team high 9 targets, 7 catches. And he looks like a guy that could be the future of the tight end spot for the Cleveland Browns and maybe even like a perennial top 5 tight end going forward. Um, for Njoku to run 9 more routes and get 4 less targets than Fannin, I'm pretty nervous if I have David Njoku. I think there's always been a chance that Njoku gets traded at some point during the season because if they really like Fannin, they want to get him more involved. Like that's one way to do it. And if you need a tight end, if you whiffed on tight end in your draft, Fannin should be the priority pickup. Ends up with 13.6 fantasy points. And then the running back field, of course, Raheem Sanders comes in there. I missed one of the rushing attempts here, but Raheem Sanders gets the rushing touchdown, which was very frustrating. But Dylan Sampson leads the team in carries and then 8 targets, 8 receptions. Like he's got the receiving back role. I know Jerome Ford played a lot of routes and snaps, but he was not very efficient with any of his touches. I think when Judkins comes back, and even if Judkins is back week 2, I'm still starting Dylan Hampson. Like I'm going to rank Dylan Sampson as a running back 2 this week. But when Judkins comes back, I think Sampson's still going to retain some receiving volume and then probably get pushed down into that Jerome Ford where he gets about 6 to 8 carries per game. So if you drafted Sampson, you have a guy that I think is very valuable as a running back 2 flex in full PPR leagues, and that's even with a healthy Judkins. But for now, like you have to start him. I think until we see what Judkins can do and how this running back field splits, I think Jerome Ford's eventually going to kind of fade out, and it's going to be the 2 rookie backs. And then Flacco remains high volume enough for super flex considerations as your QB2. And honestly, the Browns should have won this game. I mean, I think you got to go for Keenan Allen for sure. Um, we were going to get to the Packers later, but I can kind of scroll to it and show you what we got going on down here. So it's a couple things with the Packers. Their defense was so good yesterday. They only had to they only ran 23 routes. Golden was out there for about 13 routes, 2 targets. They're going to spread the ball out. I mean, if I can hold on to Golden, I'm going to hold on to him. But you have to go get Keenan Allen. We touched on Keenan Allen's numbers earlier. Keenan Allen's a full-time player in a heavy passing offense. By the looks of it, the Packers, they're going to want to play good defense and run the ball, and Jordan Love's going to sprinkle it out. So to me, it's easy. I'm not worried about Golden because I think he's going to get better as the year goes on. But if you have a guy like Keenan Allen available, you have to go and pick up Keenan Allen. And I'm going to get back up to, I don't even really want to talk about the Dolphins. We got offered Walker and Waddle for Tyreek Hill. Should I take it? I have Charbonnet already. I don't mind that because Tyreek and Waddle are kind of the same value to me. And then to just lock up Seattle backfield, I think is not a bad idea. So I'm open to that. If that's the best offer for your Tyreek, I think I'm fine with it. And then Chase is coming in with, are we worried about Kenneth Walker? I'm not worried about Kenneth Walker yet. I think he missed a lot of training camp, and I think the Seahawks kind of rewarded Charbonnet with being able to stay healthy, and they've been able to see him every day out there. So Kenneth Walker with the foot injury, they weren't really quite able to get him up to what a full workload would be for him. I think there's room for him to grow next week and maybe even hop him. The fact that Walker did catch 3 passes, though, I think is a good sign. And then, I mean, a 12 to 10 rushing attempt split is not the worst. If we're still going to be able to get double-digit carries from Walker and 2, 3, 4 catches, I think the efficiency and the yards per attempt are going to go up. And it's also just, Seattle's working in new offense, just new stuff going on here. It might take a couple weeks for them to get settled in. Now, they do have a tough matchup against the Steelers this week, but I'm looking up ahead. I think they play the Saints in week 3. That's going to be a smash spot for these running backs. And, again, Sam Darnold didn't have the best game here. Najigba was the main offensive piece, but I'm expecting the Seahawks to kind of get it together and look a little bit better in week 2 here. So I'm not panicking on Kenneth Walker. He's going to be lower in my rankings this week, but I think for now, he might be a guy that I think is worth a buy low opportunity, like we were just talking about there. I just covered the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Like I don't really think I want Rachaad White on my roster right now, especially if you can get some of the guys that we've been talking about. Where is he? I mean, I don't think he's that good of a running back. He pretty much dominated that one season based on volume alone, and they just didn't really have anybody else to give the ball to. But if Bucky were to go down, it's going to be a committee of Rashad White with Sean Tucker, which he'll have some value. But I'm open to moving on to brighter spots if you have a running. If Samson's out there, I want Samson on my team. You can let me know who's available on your waiver wire. In a one QB redraft, why do we got Rattler or Flacco on a one QB redraft? Yeah, I mean, both guys are droppable. If you have McCarthy, I would probably keep Flacco over Rattler though, because Flacco can at least support some passing numbers. Rattler's fine, but I'm not super excited about him. And who knows if we see Tyler Shuck sometime soon. So I guess I would drop Rattler here. Let's take a peek here at the Texans, Woody Marks, and I'm not super bullish on Woody Marks. To me, he's a pass catching back that has to beat Daryl Ogunbowale. He's not a guy that's going to ever lead the team in carries. Maybe he does a couple games down the stretch here, but I think this is just a whole backfield that I don't want anything to do with. I mean, they're going to mix in all four guys here, and a fifth with the fullback here, Jacob Johnson. I'm not excited about it. So I would move on from Woody Marks. And good evening to Mr. Magic. What a lopsided first week. Dude, I hate week one. It is my least favorite week of the fantasy season. I was looking at my I'm stupid and I log all my data in my fantasy league, my most important league. Week one is my lowest scoring week of the year by a mile. I usually draft forward thinking teams. It's hard for me to come out of the gates hot. But it is what it is. I hate week one. Week two is statistically my best week because that's when everything that didn't happen week one happens for me in week two. But I do want to say I'm live tonight. I'm not going to be live on Monday nights. This is going to be I'm going to record a video on Monday nights, but it's going to be under the fellowship members content. So if you guys are interested in becoming a member to get the Monday night videos where we talk about all these snap charts and things like that, that's where this video will be. And then, just all my weekly rankings and stuff in here. So if you guys are interested in getting this content weekly, that's where to find it. But I'm just worried about if McCarthy isn't great, I think McCarthy is going to have value with his legs. I think he's throwing the ball to some really good receivers. Move on. Like, you're never going to feel comfortable starting Rattler. I'd rather you take the chance with Flacco in that scenario because we know he can throw for touchdowns and a lot of yards. So maybe we just move off one QB, move off Rattler, and can try and continue to add at the QB spot. But I think you're going to like what you see out of McCarthy, even though it's a tough matchup on paper against the Bears. The Bears do have a good defense. So we do have to kind of worry about that for tonight, but I'm expecting to see some nice athleticism and hopefully some big throws to JJ, Thielen, and Hawkinson tonight. I don't really want to talk about the Dolphins, man. This was just a complete throwaway game. Achane remains a pretty good play. I think Waddle and Tyreek Hill are just wide receiver 3 flexes for week 2. Don't care about the tight end, even if Waller's out there. Ollie Gordon, I'm going to hold on to Ollie Gordon because he's still the clear number 2 running back, but just nothing worked in this game. I mean, if you have Ollie Gordon and you can see Dylan Sampson or something available on the waiver wire, I think that's probably what I'm looking for. I'm going to pull up the waiver wire column here for you guys. And I usually work on this throughout the day on Monday, but these are my favorite ads for the week so far here. It's Samson, Jaden Blue, and then I have a list of handcuffs below. It's a good week for receivers. Quentin Johnston, Hollywood Brown, Calvin Austin, Kayshon Boutte, Troy Franklin, Cedric Tillman, Romeo Dobbs. It's a great week if you need a tight end as well. A lot of names here at tight end. And then the quarterbacks, Lawrence, Penix, Daniel Jones, I like their matchups for week number 2. And then if you need to get a defense out there, I think the 49ers at New Orleans is a good one. The Cardinals versus the Panthers is a good one. Rams at Tennessee. Rams look pretty good. Buccaneers versus Houston. Chargers versus the Raiders. Those are some of the favorite ads for me going into week 2 here. I'm assuming Kittle's going to be out at least 1 to 2 games. maybe, and I saw they have a Thursday night game, I think week 5. There's a chance where they could just sit him out for the next 3 games and get him back for the short week. So I think anywhere from 2 to 3 games is likely missed for George Kittle. I'm not going to go pick up the 49ers tight end Tonjes or anything like that. If Fannon's available, I think he's the number 1 guy. I think Kyle Pitts is up there. I think Juwan Johnson. I mean, let's look at Juwan Johnson's numbers, because these, if you can find any tight end out there, like, this is what you want from a tight end participation. The Saints had 75 total snaps. Juwan Johnson played 74. They ran 49 route plays. Johnson ran 47 of them. 11 targets, 8 receptions. He could have had a touchdown in this game. He's the number 3 receiving weapon, but he led the team in receptions. He was number 2 in targets. Like, he's not going anywhere. And as long as Foster Moreau and Taysom Hill aren't messing with the tight end snaps, like, this is Juwan Johnson's room. So if you're in desperate need of a tight end, I think Juwan Johnson is the safest play. I think Brenton Strange is a quality guy. He's not going to have the ceiling, though, unless he catches a touchdown. Whereas with Johnson, you can see volume kind of running through this team because they're going to be bad and throwing the ball. So Strange is nice, but I think he's going to be inconsistent, whereas Johnson offers a high floor. And then I think Fannin is probably the most exciting ad. I'm probably going to rank them as Fannin, Juwan, Strange, as you have them there. Should I be worried about T. Higgins? No, I'm not worried about T. Higgins. This happens from time to time, and usually the Bengals are a team that starts pretty slow. It was not a great game from Joe Burrow. Running game wasn't working. I'm willing to kind of move on here. They're going to get Jacksonville this weekend. We're going to see better numbers from this team here. So not worried about Higgins or Chase Brown or Joe Burrow. Do I drop Ollie Gordon for Keenan or Fields? My QB is Nix. I would be a little concerned about Bo Nix. I think if I can get, like, I'm dumping Keenan or I'm dumping Gordon to pick up either one of these guys. I want Keenan, I want Fields on my team. Now, I would say if I need a starting receiver, I'm going to go Keenan. Because, Fields is going to continue to be a good fantasy play here, but Nix he'll figure it out eventually. But if you're going to add Keenan and he's not going to start for you, then I would say add Fields. Whatever's more important in your hierarchy of getting a starter from the waiver wire this week here. But we're going to move on from Ollie Gordon for either Fields or Keenan Allen. Yes. That doesn't matter, man. Fannon's going to get opportunities here. He was I guess. So we're going to run a lot of 2 wide receiver, 2 tight end stuff here in Cleveland. They're going to run Tillman and Judy for the primary wide receiver 2 stuff, but they run a lot of 2 tight end sets where they're both on the field. And I just, if there's ever an injury to Njoku, or if they ever trade him, and if this is just what it's going to be, like if they're just going to let Njoku lead the team in tight end routes and then Fannin kind of operate as the number 4 player in this offense, like, he's going to earn targets. And he's an exciting rookie that I think throughout the year could only get better and better. And even if Njoku's there, it's clear that he's a part of this offense, and it almost makes Njoku expendable at this point. So Fannin's the guy I think for the rest of the season that excites me the most. And yeah, the Packers just didn't need to do anything. And that's kind of what scares me. Is I'm looking at the schedule here, and I don't know if there's going to be a lot of teams that can test them and make them have to throw the ball 40 times a game, because Golden's going to be the number 2 guy for snaps and routes. They're mixing in Wicks. They're mixing in Jaden Reed as a number 3, number 4 guy. But this is going to be an offense that wants to run the ball, play good defense, and then spread it out. I think it's going to be pretty frustrating to own Packer receivers this week or this year. I don't know if we're ever going to feel comfortable starting them, but the one guy I want on my team out of all the Packer receivers is going to remain Matthew Golden, because I think he's a guy that could just get better and better as the year goes on. So don't drop Golden. Hold on to him. Dobbs, Wicks, and Reed aren't necessarily the healthiest guys for receivers. Things happen, and if we get Golden pushed up there and he's running the most routes on this team, that's going to be good. But maybe this is a good test for them Thursday Night Football, going up against the Commanders. They might have to throw the ball a little bit more. But if the Packers are playing with the lead and they're going to run the football and rely on their defense, I think their recipe is they only want to have Jordan Love throw the ball 25, 30 times a game. And Love's going to be efficient because he's got a lot of good weapons and the play actions were going to work there. But I am starting to get a little bit nervous here about Golden. Maybe just got to be patient with Matthew Golden. I thought Penix looked pretty good. They had a lot of opportunities to throw the ball here, and for him to run the ball, I thought that was kind of a bonus. I don't know if we're going to get that every week, but I thought Penix looked pretty good. I think it's going to only look better when Darnell Mooney comes back, but we gotta wait and see what's going on with Drake London. I think there's a chance London might miss this weekend, but if London is back, then yeah, we want Michael Penix, and I think he's a guy that could be in our starting lineups, but he's probably not a top 10, top 12 QB in my rankings. I think he's a super flex option. If you play in a one QB league, I'd have to know your options. But this was a game too, like just 76 snaps, 47 routes. This is not a normal week for the Falcons. I mean, you got a 50-yard touchdown catch by Bijan. Some of those are going to go to his column. This might be one of the highest scoring weeks of Penix's season. So I like him, but he's still a QB2 for me. Golden remains the most like he's the guy I think that maybe by the end of the year, like he's in our starting lineups, but we just gotta let this season unfold. We're glad we got him, and we'll see what happens. Good evening to Tony. I do not know how to read this game tonight. I think both defenses are very, very good. I'm expecting this to be a lower scoring game. I want to see what the Caleb Johnson offense or the Caleb Ben Johnson offense looks like all together. I don't have a good read. I think DJ Moore is probably the receiver for tonight to get the most fantasy points. Odunze is going to probably need a big play or two for him to be the guy. I think the volume is probably going to DJ Moore, the tight ends. They're going to see what Luther Burden and Olamide Zaccheaus can do. I don't really have any good feelings. I think it's going to be hard to predict, man. And whoever runs the most slot snaps, I'm going to be interested in for Chicago. I don't know if that's going to be Odunze. I don't know if it's going to be DJ Moore. So I think he's just a wide receiver 3 flex, but I'm willing to change my mind after tonight. I mainly just want to see what happens tonight so I can have some data points to better predict going forward. So I'm nervous. I think both quarterbacks are going to have some nice moments. Both are going to struggle at times with the defenses. But I think if I had to guess, I'll go, I don't know, 4 catches for 52 yards, something like that for Odunze. And yeah, the Bills game was just absurd. That was quite the game. I'm the only thing that surprised me was that the Lions didn't really have like a punch back. I did expect the Packers to kind of come out hot and put the pressure on the Lions, but the fact that like they just couldn't do anything. They had to resort to throwing the ball 10 times to Jahmyr Gibbs. Montgomery had 4 catches. The Packers pass rush was there and getting pressures all the time. Couldn't really let things develop downfield. So it was a big dink and dunk offense for Jared Goff. The offensive line didn't look all that great for the Lions either. So I think I'm not surprised that the Packers looked as good as they did. I think I'm just more surprised that the Lions didn't have much of a fight back. I'm probably going to go with Jaylen Warren here. Krosky Merritt looks good, but he's not going to catch a lot of passes. I think if it's full PPR, I'm going to stick with Jaylen Warren. It is a tough matchup too for Krosky Merritt going to the Packers on a short week. If you just kind of see what happened to Detroit, they had to dink and dunk a lot, and we could get a lot of Austin Eckler this weekend here. So as good as JCM looked, I think I'm going to stick with Jaylen Warren, who's going to operate as the lead back for the Steelers. I like the matchup there for him against the Seahawks. We just saw, Christian McCaffrey had a nice day catching the ball. So I'm going to lean Warren here, but it's close. We kind of covered this earlier. I'm not too concerned about Kenneth Walker yet. And I guess just looking back at it, like I should have maybe been expecting this. Kenneth Walker has missed a lot of training camp with the foot injury, hasn't been healthy all August. Zach Charbonnet has been practicing every day. And so for us to expect Kenneth Walker to just come in week 1 and get his normal 20 touches and everything. I think that was wrong of us, and we should have maybe have seen something like this coming. But the fact that Kenneth Walker still caught 3 passes, still got his 10 touches, in games where the Seahawks are going to end up winning that game, like that's going to be a nice day to start Kenneth Walker. And who knows, maybe good practice reports this week. Maybe we see the situation flip in the next week or two. They are playing the Steelers this week, but the Jets just kind of ran all over them. So maybe it's a good day for both guys. I think I'm going to be ranking both Charbonnet and Walker as kind of like, I don't know, RB2 flexes, kind of in that RB30 range. But as long as Kenneth Walker's catching passes, I think that's the good sign. And who knows, maybe the goal line touches go to Walker next week. It's going to be a moving piece. But just the Seahawks in general just didn't look all that great outside of JSN. DJ Moore under 15. I can see a DJ Moore carry happening. And yeah, that was the weird. The Lions are mixing in a lot of new guys on their offensive line. I can't remember who retired, but it was one of their best offensive linemen. It might have been their center. Was it Frank Ragnow or something? One of their best offensive linemen retired. They're mixing in some new guys here, new offense. Not going to panic yet, but they're going to get the Bears next week, and we'll get a better data point on them, guys. Good evening to Mark. Should I trade London for JT or Garrett Wilson and Harvey for Garrett Wilson? Hold on. Pearsall would be the receiver going into the lineup, and my other Bs are Hampton, Bill, and Caleb Johnson. So you need running backs. Should I trade London for JT or Garrett Wilson and Harvey for Garrett Wilson? I'm a little confused by that there. I meant JT in the second trade as well. Okay, so London for JT or Garrett Wilson. I guess JT and Harvey for Garrett Wilson. I mean, I would probably keep London if you can get Garrett Wilson and Harvey for JT. I think that's what's going to interest me. I'm going to keep London. If I can get JT and sell Harvey and Garrett Wilson, that's probably where I'm going to go. I definitely Keenan Allen over Matthew Golden. It's not close at this point. We were looking at the numbers for the Chargers earlier, and Keenan Allen's a starting fantasy receiver until we see it with Golden. And again, we're going to need to continue to look at these snaps and these routes and things like that. In games where the Packers are favorited to win, that might not be the recipe to play Matthew Golden, as they're probably not going to have to throw the ball that much. So for me, it's Keenan Allen, and I'm not losing any sleep on it. I do think Dak is going to bounce back this weekend. I mean, we had 2 goal line touchdowns for Javonte Williams. We're playing the Giants at home, Cowboys opener. We're going to get CeeDee Lamb going again, and hopefully George Pickens more involved this week. Dak is a top 10, top 12 quarterback for me this week. Not worried about Gibbs because he's going to remain a huge piece of the passing game. But we do need to start generating some big running plays, because that's what's also going to open up things for Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams and some of the other guys catching the ball downfield. So not quite worried about Gibbs yet, because he can, manage to make plays on his own. Monty is the one that I'd be a little bit worried about, because he's going to be requiring the rushing attempts and the rushing volume to get to his fantasy numbers. That's going to be okay. We're going to be. Benson did look good, so I'm not too mad about it. But Fannin did look pretty dang good. So Wednesday's going to be the day for practice reports. From what I've seen, we're not super concerned about London yet. If he misses Wednesday, I'm still not going to panic. If he misses Thursday, though, that's when I think I might start to panic a little bit. I do want to just hit on the Panthers real quick here. Bryce Young did not have a great game. Chuba Hubbard got the volume in this one, and he remains running the routes and the snaps and the attempts. So continue to use Chuba Hubbard. Dowdle is the handcuff here. And then it's basically McMillan. Like, we're not going to mess with Leggett. If you have Leggett and Renfro, I think we're going to let those guys loose. Jatavian Sanders, good usage, but just not a guy that we're going to trust. It's basically McMillan and Hubbard. That's really it for the Panthers. For the Jags, man, Brian Thomas Jr. got the rushing touchdown, so he saved the day. 7 targets look good. And we're talking, just missing on a few of these big pass plays. So I think brighter days ahead for Brian Thomas Jr. He's still going to run all the routes and be heavily involved. And even on a bad day, they're finding ways to get him the ball and get the rushing touchdown. So I like that. ETN, the huge winner here, running all the routes, getting all the snaps, getting all the touches, receptions are there. Dang it, this might be ETN RB1 season if this holds up. Bigsby's an afterthought. I think he's just a handcuff right now. They're giving LaQuint Allen routes. They're giving Bashal Tutin almost nothing. He did get some rushing attempts late in the game, but he's going to require some patience here. So it's the ETN show. Keep starting Brian Thomas. Dyami Brown is going to continue to be out there as the number 2 receiver in terms of snaps and routes. So he's a guy that I think could be interesting in deeper leagues. And then, Travis Hunter is the slot receiver here. So he's kind of like, kind of view him as like the Jaden Reed over here, where he's going to have, third most routes, third most snaps. He's out there in 3 wide receiver sets, and he's going to be the slot man. Led the team in targets and receptions week 1. I think bigger plays are ahead for him as he gets more comfortable in the Jags playbook. How much did I put on Keenan? If I need Keenan Allen to start for me, I'm probably going to end up spending $20 to $25 on Keenan Allen this week. This is the week to be aggressive because I think if Keenan Allen stays healthy, man, he's going to be a top 20 fantasy receiver. So this is the week to be aggressive on Keenan Allen if he's out there. If you want to go more than that, I'm not going to yell at you. But I do think $20, $25 is probably where I would go. Ridley got the tough treatment with Pat Surtain. I think all of his catches pretty much came against the other corners when he was matched with him. So we're going to hold out for Calvin Ridley. I think he's going to be okay. I think Tony Pollard will be okay. It just did not look all that great against Denver. I would disagree. They had some nice big plays the first 6 or 7 games. But it's week 1. I'm not going to be too mad about it. Lawrence was good. If you remove the misses to Brian Thomas, his numbers were actually pretty efficient. Brenton Strange, Hunter, and Dyami Brown all had some decent numbers, but we got to get more efficient with Trevor Lawrence. We didn't miss much, and I do want to say, like, this is a Monday night show that I'm going to do for members. I'm doing it for free for week 1 to show you guys what we're going to be doing. But for the most part, if you guys look at the fellowship, fantasyfellowship.com, the members content, we got a waiver wire report, start sit charts, weekly rankings. I'll get some rest of season rankings up later this week. And then Monday nights, I'm going to basically just go over my post-game notes, which give you all the snaps, routes. So if you're interested, check out the fantasyfellowship.com. Kyle, I double stacked Allen with Shakir and Coleman. Oh my goodness. We're up 15. I have the Bears D. My opponent has Jefferson. Do you think I win? I think so. I mean, I'm thinking this game's a low-scoring game tonight. I can't see, the 30-point game from either team. And if that were to happen, it'd probably be the defense is getting some points or the special teams getting some points in there. So I think you're good. I'm going to probably give Jefferson that 15 points just himself if that's full PPR. So we just need the Bears defense to generate some positive points this week. So I think you're good, but congrats on the massive Buffalo Bills stack to propel you here. So good luck, man. That's pretty exciting. Just look at the Patriots real quick here. Ramondre, 46 snaps, Travion 25. Ramondre ran a lot more routes than I anticipated. The carries they just didn't really get to establish the run and play from ahead. So 7 carries for Ramondre, 5 for Hendo. 3 targets for Ramondre, 6 for Henderson. He caught all 6 of his passes. This is what we're going to be looking at kind of all year. If they get close, Ramondre might get the goal line touchdowns, but Henderson's going to remain a high-volume PPR running back too for us. And then Kayshon Boutte, man, I think he's probably a top ad for me. If you need a receiver help and you miss on Keenan Allen, look for Kayshon Boutte. He's going to remain the guy that leads the team in snaps and routes, and he's just kind of their outside big play receiver. I did think Demario Douglas remains a hold, and Stephon Diggs, they're just kind of ramping him back up, so don't panic on Diggs here. And then Hunter Henry should be owned as well, man. That's great usage here. He ran a lot of routes, a lot of targets. Offense looks fruitful for fantasy, just maybe not so much for Ramondre. And Jalen Johnson is indeed out tonight. How much fab for Boutte? I mean, if you're just operating with, the $100 fab, I'm thinking like $8 to $10. If Keenan Allen's there, he's the guy that I really, really, really want. But I saw he's mostly owned in ESPN leagues here, so I do have Booty on the list. I think Quentin Johnston's the other name that we should mention here too. I think I'd rather own Quentin Johnston over Keyshawn Boot. And I'm probably going to put like $15 on Quentin Johnston. I think Booty's more $8 to $12, something like that. Don't really need to talk much about the Cardinals. I mean, it's Marvin Harrison, it's Trey McBride, James Conner, and then the usage for Benson did look good, but this game wasn't super competitive. I think if the Cardinals are losing, we're going to see more James Conner in games where the Cardinals are picked to win. Though you're going to be open to playing Trey Benson because he broke off a couple nice big runs. He's involved in the passing game. He's getting routes. He actually looked pretty decent. So maybe this week against the Panthers, you can whip out Benson if you need running back 2 help. The Saints. You're starting Kamara. I think Olave and Shaheed are starts, man. 13 and 9 targets. This was a game where we saw 49 routes up from the Saints. So maybe this isn't every week here, but they're going to have to throw the ball a lot because they're not going to be winning a lot of games. So I think Kamara, Olave, Shaheed, and then Juwan Johnson are guys that should probably enter starting lineups this week. Yeah, I like Josh Palmer, man. He looked good. It did kind of make me mad, though, that one play where it was an interception and it got turned over because it hit the ground. Like, Palmer's got to finish that route because I think he kind of gave up on it, and it almost was an interception that cost the game. So I do like Palmer. I think he's a guy that can be a wide receiver 3 flex. But right now, I think I'm wrong on Keon Coleman, man. He was a guy that I just kind of faded all summer, but he looks like a guy that is going to get every opportunity to succeed. He's a must-start fantasy player for now. Keon Coleman looks pretty good. But it was a wild game. Like, we can't expect that volume every week for the Buffalo Bills. So I think it could be some, moments of frustration for both guys. But for now, I think Coleman's a starter in fantasy. Palmer is a flex add in waiver wire options this week. Steelers backfield. You saw Kenneth Gainwell play an annoyingly amount of snaps, ran a lot of routes, 7 rushing attempts. He's just not a productive player when he gets touches. They like him because he's not going to totally F up the play, right? But Warren is the guy there that remains the running back 2 start. Take away the touchdown, though, it doesn't look all that great. So I'm hoping that Warren can hop Gainwell with some of these snaps and these routes and these touches, and hopefully becomes a much more dependable running back 2 for us. DK Metcalf remains a start. Calvin Austin can be picked up in PPR leagues. He looked pretty good. The clear number 2 receiver here, Calvin Austin. And then this is going to be annoying, but Jonnu and Freiermuth basically splitting time as the tight end 1 here, both playing about 50% of the routes, but they're targeted when they're on the field. I guess I'm going to go with Jonnu if I needed a tight end. The Jets are pretty simple. Breece Hall remains the value here. You want him in your lineups every week. Braylon Allen's just going to be a goal line back for me. I'm never going to start him unless Breece Hall is missing. But Breece Hall starts. Justin Fields starts. Garrett Wilson starts. We need a better wide receiver too here because he's getting a lot of opportunity, but he's just not getting the targets. So Garrett Wilson remains the only other receiving option. So Fields, Breece, Wilson, end of the Jets. I will note that Mason Taylor did run a lot of routes and could get better as the year goes on, so we'll keep an eye on him. Yeah, the Gainwell stuff, should have seen it coming, man. It's Arthur Smith. We should have seen this coming. Frustrating. New York Giants, I mean, it's pretty much Malik Neighbors, this running back field. Even though Tyrone Tracy dominated the snaps, dominated the routes, led the team in rushing attempts, there's just nothing productive here. But this is like, if I'm going to see this snaps, routes, and rushing it, like if he's going to dominate all this, there should be more fantasy points in the future here. So we'll see if this evolves, if Scatterbo gets more work, whatever. But overall, Giants, it's Malik Neighbors. You can maybe play Wandale in a PPR league. That might be the only thing that's useful here. Otherwise, the Giants look pretty gross. Yeah, Daniel. I own Kenneth Walker in 1 league as well. I'm not overly concerned yet. It might be a committee all season long, but Kenneth Walker's catching passes. He's still getting double-digit carries in a game that was close and tight to the end. in games where the Seahawks, and we expect the Seahawks to win, I don't know, 7, 8, 9, 10 games this year, right? In games where they win, we're going to want Kenneth Walker in our lineup. So he might not be that, that strong RB2 for us that we were depending on, but he's a guy that I think is a good tool in our tool bag. And who knows, man? Maybe they're just warming him up, getting him ramped up, making sure he stays healthy with that foot. That could be it as well. We'll have to get another data point next week. So I'm not panicking yet. I think things will be okay. But we need to see Kenneth Walker healthy all year long. I mean, right now I think it's Ricky Pearsall, man. George Kittle's going to be missing some games. Juwan Jennings is going to be missing some games. It sounds like with that shoulder. Give me Ricky Pearsall because Purdy looks great. The Broncos have a lot of mouths to feed. Sutton does look really good, but I think give me Pearsall over DK. You're going to start Sutton Egbuka, but I'm going to put Pearsall out there as my number 3 over DK Metcalf. Commanders, we'll just talk about the running backs real quick here. Eckler is going to be the passing down back. He caught a lot of passes, 8.7 PPR points if you need a running back too. But Merritt will be a guy that gets more work as the season goes on. So he's a guy that's going to be a thing this year. I feel confident about that. Terry McLaurin, first game back, getting involved in the offense again. It's going to take some time to get that rust off. Maybe he perks back up week 2 on Thursday Night Football. Debo, though, we were hot on the Debo trail. He got off to a hot start, and he looked pretty dang good. He's a wide receiver 2-3 for me this week against the Packers. And then Zach Ertz remains a startable tight end option for you. The 49ers, I mean, Purdy's going to be a fringe QB1 for me all year long. McCaffrey looked good. B-Rob's a serviceable handcuff for us, but it's the Ricky Pearsall show. He's going to be really the only healthy receiving option for the next couple weeks. You don't need to go out and pick up Luke Farrell or Jake Tonjes. That just sounds like it's not going to be a lot of fun to start those guys. You have better tight end options on the waiver wire this week. And Kenneth Walker seems to be the hot guy of the show here. 21 snaps to Charbonnet's 30. About the same amount of routes, 12 touches for Charbonnet, 10 for Walker, but the 3 catches go to Walker. There's just no room to run for either of these guys, really. So I'm hoping for better days ahead for both of these guys. But yeah, they're both kind of RB3 flexes at the moment. And then, yeah, JSN show, man. He is the offense. Can't start Kupp until we see it. Tight ends. It's AJ Barner getting the majority of snaps, but they do want to throw it with Arroyo, but we're just not looking here for fantasy. So Darnold, can't really trust him in a super flex yet. So it's Charbonnet, Walker, and JSN here. I think the Lions will figure it out. Continue to start your Lions. If they don't get figured out against the Bears, we'll reassess it. But I don't think I'm starting Goff in a super flex league, but that's pretty much it. Not a 1 QB league. The Packers, you can start Jordan Love in a 1 QB league. He's more of a super flex guy, but you're starting Jacobs. And then I don't know, man, you can start Tucker Kraft, but you're fishing for a touchdown. You can start these receivers, but again, you're fishing for a touchdown. I think I'm probably going to fade Packer receivers and tight ends. It's pretty much Love and Jacobs for me. Oh my God, he's a baller. Yeah, that's if you drafted Tyler Warren this year, congrats. You have a top 5 tight end. His usage was pretty insane. And he's going to be leading the league in pretty much a lot of tight end categories. And he might lead the Colts and everything by the end of the year. So congrats on Tyler Warren if you drafted him. Oh, yeah, hell yeah. Give me Justin Herbert. I want that rushing volume with Herbert, and just they came out aggressive, man. I'm pretty excited about this change for the Chargers. I think that's going to be the idea. I think Herbert is the identity. It's not going to be the ground and pound Jim Harbaugh offense that we had been predicting. So Herbert over Goff, rest of season for me, pretty easy. And yeah, with George Kittle out, I think Ricky Pearsall is going to look pretty nice the next couple of weeks. And they did bring in Kendrick Bourne. We'll keep an eye on him. So Pittman, that's one of my other things that I was wrong about. And I didn't really respect Michael Pittman enough. He was injured a lot last year with that back injury, and he operated primarily as their number 1 receiver in this one. He looked pretty good. I think Daniel Jones can float, a tight end and a receiver or 2 each week. It's not going to be this good for the Colts every week. They played the Dolphins, which they clearly were not ready, but it does look like Pittman's back as a wide receiver 3 flex. Yeah, so for me, when I looked at the 49ers schedule, guys, and if you're the 49ers, you got to win games, but they also expect to be there for the playoffs. When I'm looking at the schedule here, I see week 2 against New Orleans, they should be fine. They should be able to beat Arizona, or at least be competitive in that game. And then Jacksonville, I think they can beat Jacksonville. These are 2 home games here. I think they can, realistically, the 49ers are 3-1, 4-0 heading into this Thursday night game. So at worst, I think you plan for George Kittle to be back week 5. That's my guess. Short week here, get him ready for Thursday night football. That's, 3-4 weeks away. I think that's probably the most likely scenario. Yeah, I think that's totally reasonable there, Daniel. Let's go with JCM until we see it with Walker. So with Hollywood Brown, like we're gonna get Rashee Rice back in a few weeks. We're gonna get Xavier Worthy back. It doesn't sound like it's a season-ending injury for Worthy. They're listing him day to day, but it's more probably like week to week. So if you need a guy to start for the next 2-3 weeks, then I think you spend a little bit more money on Hollywood Brown. If you're gonna just put him on your bench, then I wouldn't bother with it. I don't know, $15 to $20 if you need a starting wide receiver 3 flex. But if he's not going to start for you, I'm probably not going to blow my load on a guy that might only have, startable value for the next 4 or 5 games. So we did get a Shefty bomb. Yeah, I think predicting him back week 5, as long as he doesn't go on the IR or the whatever list, I think that's going to be okay. Multiple weeks with the hamstring. Okay. So yeah, I think my target's going to be week 5. And we're going to see about Jauan Jennings pretty soon here, guys. Yeah, we have the left shoulder here too. Oh my goodness. 49ers in shambles. Okay. We'll have more on the 49ers, I think, throughout the week here. Jauan, Purdy, we need more information here, but this is down bad. So maybe they're not going to be 4-0 heading into Thursday night football. We'll see. Yeah, IR would be 4 games. But I just wanted to go live here and show you guys what's going on Monday nights here. Again, this is I did it for free week 1, but if you guys are interested in getting access to these shows, they will be available on the fantasyfellowship.com. Just become a member here. I have a full season package. I have a 2-week trial package if you want it. There's different lengths for you guys, but if you become a member, you'll get access to this Monday night show, my weekly rankings, my start sit charts, my waiver wire column, and the rest of season rankings, as well as the post-game notes, which I think, this takes me a long time to put together, and it kind of gives you the snapshot of what happened throughout the week. But check that out, fantasyfellowship.com. I want to thank you for watching the video tonight, and good luck. I hope you guys get all the points or the points that you don't need. I hope they don't happen. Whatever you need tonight, good luck. I'm excited to see Caleb Williams versus JJ McCarthy. Enjoy the night. We'll see you guys tomorrow evening. Peace.